Well, this is what I call a twofer, in that is we have two speakers for the price of one, so to speak, or for one meeting. And I'm delighted to welcome Sue Pendle, who is Chair of Trustees of the Cambrian Centre, and also Sarah Ritchie, who runs the Real Junk Food project. And probably most of you do know the Cambrian Centre, because if you've walked up Queen's Road, you'll have passed it many times. And some of you may even be involved with it, but probably quite a lot of people don't know. And it's one of the gems in the borough, of which we have many, who provide activities and support for a range of people, for the whole community, but very often for people who have mobility issues, or are elderly, or can't get out much, or who are less affluent than many in the borough. And since 1989, the Cambrian Centre has been operating on the Queen's Road estate. Now, the Real Junk Food project provides a Wednesday lunch there. So you'll probably find, Sarah, that you'll have an increased uptake every Wednesday now. But they do also apparently provide lunch in Hampton. And I think everybody who either acts as volunteers or trustees in organisations like the Cambrian Centre, or Richmond Good Neighbours, or the Kew Community Trust, and I should declare an interest because I'm the chair of that, and the various other ones in the borough. They do a huge amount, which possibly once upon a time the state would have done, but that's no longer the case. Anyway, you don't want to hear me whittering on. So, Sue, perhaps you'd like to come and tell us about the Cambrian Centre.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Louise. You've stolen some of my thunder already, but I'll repeat what you've already said without hesitation. So I'm very pleased to have been invited to speak to you tonight. It's a great pleasure to talk a little bit about what's going on at the Cambrian Centre. I will just pause because actually I have. Some of you may know me in a different capacity, which is as the bus driver's wife. Because I have turned out on some of the Richmond Society bus tours that my husband Peter Hendy has been involved in providing with our bus. But I'm not here as a bus driver's wife today. I'm here as the chair of trustees at the Cambrian Community Centre, which I've been since 2020. Now, I'm sure, as Louise says, many of you will have had reason to either pass by or pop in. If you don't know it, it is at the top of Richmond Hill. It's just to the south of Queen's Road, between Queen's Road and on the corner of Queen's Road and Cambrian Road, and between Queen's Road and the park. So that's where it is. And when I was talking about the fact that I've been invited to speak here, I was advised that I should just touch a little bit on, at least on the history of how the building came to be there and how it came to be as it is. So I'm going to do a little bit of that at the beginning, but I know there are people here who know far more about this subject than I do. So do bear with me on that. So on the history, just starting there, what was, as you know, Richmond Parish Lands Charity was looking to develop the area of land that they had in.
Can't see the TV screen.
Sorry. I'll carry on. So the Richmond Parish Lands were looking to develop the area of land, or the area of housing. It was, of course, housing, and the workhouse was there during the 1970s. And they got the National Housing Corporation involved, who also got, and through them, the London and Quadrant Housing Association was appointed as the developer to undertake that work. And Richmond Parish Lands let a 100-year lease on that area of work to enable a development of social housing in that area. So that was undertaken in 3 phases. The build started in 1978 on the first phase, and that first phase of social housing was opened in 1983. And as I understand it, there are something in the region of 350 social housing units in the area. There is, of course, a care home in that area, Greville Road, and there is 2 significant blocks of sheltered housing, as well as a block of almshouses, and shortly to be a second block when the new block opens at Easter. In the master plan for the development in the 1970s, my understanding is that it was originally planned that the workhouse would be converted into a community centre, but on reflection, a decision was taken that that was too big and that it would be disproportionate for a community centre. So that plan was dropped. There was an alternative plan, I understand, to build a bespoke community centre in an area of land behind the Cambrian Road houses. But there was a community consultation on that, and residents in Cambrian Road and Queen's Road estate felt that there was a high risk of noise and nuisance and disturbance. So that led to that plan being dropped as well. However, I have a suspicion that some of the early residents of the new housing didn't want to lose the idea of a community centre in that area. They did take it upon themselves to organise a youth club that was being delivered from an abandoned temporary builders property. And I think probably maintain some pressure to try and get a community centre established. So the final plan was to build a residential block 3 floors high of flats, and to dedicate the ground floor initially as a community centre. And that is the plan that went ahead. So it was designed as a set of flats, and I have to say that in operating it as a community centre, that presents us with some challenges. We're always short of space, the ceiling levels are very low, we've got more doors than you can imagine we would ever need, and it's very difficult to work out which door to use. I have seen recently an article that was contemporary at the time, which suggested that in a sense we would start off as a community centre in that ground floor of what became called Capling Court, and with a view to moving it on, if it was successful, perhaps to a bigger property. So that it was opened in 1989, and 36 years later, we're still operating from that building. So just get this. So then a little bit of history on the charity itself. It was initially run by a committee under the wing of Richmond Parish Lands Charity. It moved off to became an independent registered charity in 1999, so after the first 10 years of operation. In 2002, something called the Workhouse Gym, which I think was a privately run gym, transferred into the Cambrian Centre, and became, and still is, the community gym. Now, I haven't worked out the circumstances of that transfer and how that came to happen, so if anybody does know anything more about that, I'd be very interested to hear from them.
Sue, I'm very sorry to interrupt. I can only see part of your screen of your display. the camera is pointing in the wrong direction.
Oh, right. So what do I do about that? Is there somebody who can help with
Can
that?
somebody turn it to the left, and that would be better?
Okay, thank you for that.
Any better?
Does that work?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, good. Sorry. So with the transfer of the gym into the Cambrian Centre, that left us with the layout that we still have today, with about a third of the building dedicated to the gym. We then have a large meeting room, which we can now subdivide with a soundproof articulated wall or screen, and then we have a small community room as well. The charity we converted into a incorporated charity in 2013. Now, from what I've gathered, it's fair to say that I think that there have been some ups and downs for the Cambrian Centre over the last 10 to 12 years. And the most recent difficulty that us with others have had to struggle with in community centres is firstly, of course, the period of COVID closure and partial opening, which lasted for a good 18 months, a period we're all trying to forget, of course. And that was followed by the cost of living issues, which has increased our cost base quite substantially. So I do know something about this particular difficulty, because this all happened on my watch rather than anybody else's. But I'm pleased to say that despite those pressures, that the centre is now thriving. And what we've done is that we've moved on to into the world of grant fundraising. We had to raise grant funds in order to get the books to balance because of the increased cost base and the slower level of activity after COVID. But what we found is that it has been a transformative experience, because with access to grants, we have been able to develop on the level of community-facing activities delivered from the centre to a much more substantial extent than we would have been able to under the older arrangements. And that's what I mean by the fact that there has been a real development and change at the centre. So I've just put up here our charitable objective in easy language. The articles say it in a more complicated way, but that's what that's what we're setting out to do. We are the only community centre in Richmond. There is, of course, a vineyard, but they have a more specialist targeted focus than we and other community centres do. And we are one of 10 community centres across the borough. Now, in this statement of objective, what I would do is to really emphasise the fact that we welcome everyone. We're not just there to serve the Queen's Road estate, we're there to serve the whole community. I think this is an important point. That we work in an area where there is a huge economic divergence, and that's something that Louise has already referred to. So we have people who are living on less income than is easy to live on. We have people with great wealth, and we have everything in between. And whilst as a community centre we want to be there for those who perhaps have greater need, we also see our role as one of being a hub for the whole community, with a view to developing social connection and bridges across those really substantial divides. And I just want to touch briefly on the community profile. I mean, it is the case, as again Louise has already referred to, the fact that across the whole of the borough we are an ageing population. It's particularly so on Queen's Road Estate because people moved in together at the same sort of time, and then many came with young families. But the people who moved in as parents of young families there are all ageing together at the same time. But I think the other thing that's really significant is that, and again across the whole of the borough, the number of single person households is over a third. So 1 in 3, more than 1 in 3 households are single person households, and that's true in the area that we serve as well. So social isolation is really a feature across the whole of the economic range, and something that we think is significant to work on. On the estate, of course, we've got, as you would expect, a higher level of people living with chronic health conditions, and associated with that, a higher level of people living with disability, as well as lower levels of economic prosperity. So how do we fulfill our aims? So we provide a set of community activities program, and by that I mean that we directly employ instructors and tutors who then deliver these activities, and they are things like yoga, Pilates, creative writing, drawing, choir, chair yoga, and other things. There's something there for everybody, so do look into it. We also now operate what I call 3 open access free sessions, and I'll talk a little bit more about those shortly. The community gym, of course, and then we also operate a health referral scheme, and that's something that is, because of the gym, is unique to us as a community centre. So, and again, it's a borough-wide provision, irrespective of economic financial circumstances. Anybody who has a health issue can be referred to the centre for bespoke assessment by our additionally qualified gym staff for exercise programmes designed to help recovery from whatever health condition is involved. And the sort of people who come along to us are people with strokes, suffer from strokes, heart conditions, COPD or other lung issues, recovery, of course, from orthopedic surgery, always a valuable thing to build muscle strength to help people through. And of course, people with neurological conditions as well, like Parkinson's. And we offer both a bespoke assessment and also additionally discounted sessions to enable people to make sure that they are affordable and to encourage people to engage with that improved road to recovery. We see the fundraising that we do as an important part of what we do, because we do aim to keep our fees affordable and available to everybody. But in the spirit of being a centre that welcomes everybody, we provide donation opportunities so that those people who come along to join us have opportunities to give more if they can afford it. So then a bit of light relief, a few photos. So you'll see that we've got the table tennis, top left, photo from the gym, photo of the artwork on display, and finally I've slid in a picture of the bus. Of course, just to keep you on your toes. So the bus is there for a reason, because the 10 centre managers who work together collaboratively do organise a community centre week in September of each year to raise the profile of community centres across the borough. And Peter and I are out in the bus during that week to do a bus tour of the community centres, where we end up at one of the centres for a very lovely afternoon tea with jazz music or other music, and I do recommend it, so do look out for that in September. It's a good afternoon out. So moving on, I just want to talk a little bit about, I've mentioned the fact that the community centre is thriving in a way that a bit beyond as it has done in previous years. And what we've had is a significant increase in the community-facing activities. So in the community activities programme, we've had a 37.5 increase in the attendance levels in the last, that's year on year, that's the last 12 months on the previous 12 months. And that built on a similar increase the previous year. And there was a 2/3 increase in the number of sessions offered at the centre. So that's the sort of level of development that we've been doing at the centre. And then other uses of the centre, so these free open access sessions, and by that I mean that there's no booking, no prior booking, no fee, you just turn up. And these have all developed on in the last 2 years. So the community space with table tennis on a Tuesday afternoon, that's a drop-in session. That's tea and chat, which is a bit I like. But also table tennis, and there's polybat, which is an accessible form of table tennis to engage across the community. We've also got the lovely Wednesday lunch cafe, which is nearly been at the centre, started at the centre nearly 2 years ago, and Sarah will talk some more about that, but that also has grown exponentially in the last 2 years. And then we have just recently started a stay and play session, which is also a free open access session, although you do have to have a child, I'm afraid, to come along. And that's that's provided on a pay-as-you-feel basis. And then, of course, we hire out room capacity where we can, and other organisations provide other activities. And of course, there are full details on the website as ever. So then the community gym also seen a substantial increase. There's been a 50% increase in visits to the gym, again on a year-on-year comparison, and nearly 30% increase in the number of regular users. So you would be joining a popular event if you came and joined in at the gym. And like the activities programme, it is there for everybody, and it is building on increases which from the previous year as well. The staff, as I say, are additionally qualified and extremely good at working, particularly with older people. So then I'm going to. So this is a picture of the gym, again a bit of light relief. It's not quite all the gym, it's about 2/3 of the gym, and it's not always as full as this. We do manage how many people, so there is a booking system. We don't have more than 6 people in the gym at a time, so it doesn't become too crowded, and that there's proper access to the machines when you want them. But the reason this is looking crowded here is because it was a fundraiser. It's a picture of a fundraiser where people were walking, cycling and rowing in the interest of raising money. So I've just put up a couple of centre users quotes there. It's what selected from many, but what you have here is one from an older gym user who was pleased to find that his balance and muscle strength was significantly improved by engaging with the gym, and also enjoyed the sense of belonging and social connections. And then a participant with a drawing group who felt that it had opened a whole new world for her. It wasn't something she'd ever imagined getting involved in. And she emphasises the importance of the affordability for her to enable her to do that. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on some bigger picture developments. If you haven't visited the centre recently, we have a whole lovely new kitchen. We're absolutely delighted with it. It was funded by the funding from the council's community fund and built last summer. It's really has made a difference for us. We've also introduced a gym bursary scheme recently and the stay and play session. The gym bursary scheme is there to enable people who can't afford even our affordable fees to engage with it, engage with the gym if it makes a difference for them in any event, and that's what the fundraiser in the gym is raising money to achieve. We want, of course, and looking forward, just looking forward briefly, we want, of course, to carry on increasing the amount of activity in the centre and to make sure that we're absolutely maximising the value of the centre for the local community and using the space to the full extent that we can. And in addition to that, we've got some exciting new developments. So the area that is the car park, was the car park behind the Cambrian Centre, is currently being developed, currently has bulldozers on it. It's being developed into a community open space. So that would involve seating areas and areas perhaps to perhaps not kick a ball, but certainly perhaps use a basketball hoop on. And we are very much looking forward to being able to spill out into that area from the community centre during the warmer months, not in February, I'm sure, and to put on some events that will draw people into using that community space as well as we can. And then finally, we're hoping to be in a position at some stage to make further improvements to the centre. We'd like to see some further modernisation so that the rest of it looks as lovely as our kitchen. And we'd like to have a clearer entrance, so there's less of a guessing game in how to get into the property when you arrive. But that's we're talking to Richmond Foundation about that. That's our landlord, obviously, and we need to think about actually what that looks like. And indeed, Fiona, who's involved in that, is here tonight, and also how we can work out how to fund it. So that's our project. That's our big project at the moment. So I'm going to stop there and hand over to Sarah, who's going to talk about the junk food project.
Thank you, Sue. It'll just take me a second to switch presentations. Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me come to talk. I'm Sarah. I work for the Junk Food Project, the Real Junk Food Project, sorry. That's a bit of a mouthful, so you'll see that we shorten that to TRJFP quite often. That's what that stands for. So I joined the organisation as a volunteer in 2021 and then joined as a staff member when they expanded to open the Cambrian Centre in 2023. I actually manage two centres, the Cambrian Centre and Ham. I'm also the volunteer coordinator and logistics coordinator for the whole organisation, so I wear many hats. That's not working. So the Real Junk Food Project is a community interest company. We're both an environmental and a social project whose mission is to feed bellies, not bins. So we rescue surplus food that would otherwise have gone to landfill, and we turn it into hot lunches that we serve in our community cafes. And we also offer people the chance to take home food from our surplus food hubs. So this is things like bread, pastries, fruit and veg, things that are just beyond their best before date but are still safe to eat. We are open to everyone. Unlike a traditional food bank, you don't need a referral to come and visit us. And people come to us for lots of reasons. Some people are suffering financially and experiencing food insecurity, and they come to get either a cheap or a free meal from us. Other people come for the social aspect. It's a great environment. And other people just want to do their bit for the environment and save food, stop wasting food. We operate on a pay-as-you-feel basis, so we do welcome more affluent people to come and help subsidise those who can't afford to pay. We first opened in 2018, and since that time, we fed over 90,000 bellies and redirected over 270 tonnes of food from landfill. So it all started, as I say, in 2018 at the Etna Centre in East Twickenham. We started there just 1 day a week, and since then it's grown significantly. So now we operate in 5 different venues over the Richmond Borough and a total of 8 different sessions a week. So the Cambrian Centre, which I'll focus on today, started in March 2023. So yeah, we're almost at our 2-year anniversary, and we run 1 session a week just on Wednesday lunchtimes. So day 1 in March 2023, what were we doing? Well, at that time, we only had 7 volunteers. Everyone was brand new. We actually had 30 visitors on our first day, which is more than I was expecting. That's mainly thanks to our volunteer, Kate, who stood by the entrance and grabbed anyone that was walking past to the park and told them about us, told them to come in and see what we were doing. You know, because everyone was new, it was quite a simple offering that we did on that first day. So we offered a soup that was actually cooked by the Etna team on Monday. We managed to do cheese toasties and a fruit smoothie. But very quickly, as people got more familiar with the role, we were able to expand that. So very quickly, we were doing a vegetarian main course with optional meat on the side. We were cooking our own soups and doing our smoothies as usual. And then eventually, when we expanded our volunteers, we also had a dessert team. And still today, they're churning out apple crumbles and bread and butter puddings, which are a staple offering at the Cambrian Centre. I've also included this picture of the old kitchen, just in case anyone hadn't visited before the big renovation, just to point out how small that kitchen is. And I'm still very impressed at what our chefs were able to create in that kitchen. Fast forward to today, and we have expanded a lot. So now, even since the new year, there's actually been an uptick in the number of visitors coming to us. So we're doing now around 60 meals every session, plus another 10 to 20 people fed through food that we redistribute to other organisations. Every week, we now do a vegan soup, a completely separate meat main course and vegetarian main course. We do our desserts, as I mentioned before, side salad, if we get any side salad donated, and our fruit smoothies. And I think on the books, I've got about 20 volunteers, and typically per session, around 13 people show up. And that's how we're able to offer that. Now, if fewer people show up, I just have to adapt what we can do and make it work. And this is our lovely new kitchen, significantly larger. And the chefs love it. We can now have 4 people in the kitchen, whereas before we could only have 2. And this picture is actually from our Christmas special Christmas lunch. Not on Christmas Day, we did it the week before Christmas. And we were offering full turkey, you know, turkey and all the trimmings to 80 people. So do I have time? Yes, I've got time, I think, to just talk a little bit about how we operate the organisation. Of course, it all starts with the food, and most of our donations come from the large supermarkets in the borough, so Waitrose, Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer's and Lidl. And we there's coordination partners, Fairshare and Neighbourly. They let us know if the supermarkets have surplus. We accept that donation and we send our volunteer drivers either in the evenings or the mornings to go and collect the food and bring it to our venues. Another important partner we have is City Harvest. So they connect us with kind of directly with food manufacturers or suppliers, and they bring us 20 crates of food every Monday morning, and we then distribute that among all of our venues and share it out. We also have relationships with some independent venues like Cavan Bakery. Now, sadly, we don't get the Cavan pastries donated to us at the Cambrian Centre. They all tend to go to Etna. But we are lucky enough to have relationships with some of the bigger Richmond allotments. So particularly Manor Road allotment, they have a community plot and they kindly donate some of their produce from the community plot to us at the Cambrian Centre. Most impressively was a 47-kilogram pumpkin a couple of years ago, which we were able to chop up, freeze, and basically it supplied us with soup for several months. This kind of is a summary of how we operate. As I mentioned, we've got our volunteer drivers that drop off the food in the mornings. We then have a team of volunteers who weigh the food and sort the donations, giving some of it to the kitchen and the rest goes on our surplus food hub table. We obviously have our wonderful, talented chefs in the kitchen who prepare the meals. Now, we're not a traditional restaurant. We don't have the same menu every week because we don't know what's going to come in that week. So there's a lot of creativity, flexibility, some experimental dishes, but generally we make it work. During service, we're open for 2 hours a session to the public. So we have our volunteers serving the hot meals, serving from the food hub, and our heroes that do all the washing up. After the session, if we have any food left over, we really try not to waste anything. So we'll distribute food to other local organisations. Specifically from the Cambrian Centre, we send food to Nacro and Spear in Richmond and the Woodville Centre in Ham. And any food that's not edible, so our kitchen scraps and any bits of mouldy fruit and veg that sometimes get, that appear in the donations, we've got a team of people with, well, luckily with allotments. So I have an allotment, several of our other volunteers have an allotment, and we're happy to take those scraps and turn them into compost. We could not operate without our team of volunteers, of course. Everyone is a volunteer apart from the managers. And over the whole organisation, we've got over 80 volunteers who put in around 900 hours a month of their time. We tend to it's actually fairly easy for us, luckily, to recruit volunteers. Most people approach us directly. If we have specific roles, we'll put them on Richmond CVS. We're able to support volunteers with additional needs, up to 1 person per session. And we're really proud of 2 of our volunteers who've gone on to get supported employment in the hospitality industry after volunteering with us at the Junk Food Project. We also welcome young adults, teenagers, anyone over the age of 14, especially those doing the Duke of Edinburgh. Now, they can't work in our lunchtime cafes regularly, obviously, because they're at school. But what we have them do is collect our dirty tea towels and aprons after school, take them home, wash them, dry them, bring them back. And that's a great help. So if you have any young people in your life that need to know how to work a washing machine, please send them our way. And our volunteers tell us they really love what they do. We don't have a high turnover of people. Lots of people have been with us for years. They really get a sense that they're supporting and helping their community. And they also get a lot of, it's a social environment for them as well. And of course, we do this for our guests. Now, we reckon we feed over 850 individuals a week, including the people we redistribute food to, as well as those who come to our cafe. I think at the Cambrian Centre, we probably have around 30 people who are regulars, and it is a really, really social environment. Everyone knows each other's names. It's a really brilliant environment. Some of our guests are very vulnerable. Some of them may be homeless. They may have mental health issues or be recovering from addiction. And if necessary, we will signpost people to other organisations that can help them in the borough, or even do safeguarding referrals if that's appropriate. One of our core values is that we operate on a pay-as-you-feel basis, and this allows everyone to access our services, whether you can afford to pay or not. We obviously welcome donations if people can afford it, but there's no judgment if you can't. Because of our pay-as-you-feel model, of course, that makes us dependent on funding from external sources, and we're really grateful to our main funders, which are local, and that's the local Richmond Council, the Richmond Foundation, and the Hampton Fund. We also receive funding from the National Lottery, and most recently we've partnered with Haymarket Media Group in Twickenham. They've chosen us to be their local charity partner, so for the next few years that's going to be a really good extra source of funding and ad hoc volunteers for us. Of course, we also welcome any one-off group and individual donations. Now, even if you haven't been to one of our venues, you might recognise our spotty yellow tablecloth and our teal aprons from the Richmond Fair. So as another fundraiser, we sell homemade jams and chutneys at all the local fairs and also some Christmas events over in Hampton. So if we get a large donation, say of strawberries or raspberries, cherries, Seville oranges, we'll set them aside, and several of our volunteers are keen jam makers, and so that's the source of all this lovely jam and chutney. So you'll see us there again this year. We've been recognised twice by the local Community Hero Awards. Firstly in 2018, the founders, Chrissy and Claire, won the Community Project Award, and more recently in 2022, we won the Environmental Award. We do have plans to expand. In the very short term, we're looking to get a really good quality central storage facility with refrigeration, freezers and dry goods, which will really help us support kind of our multiple venues and the kind of logistics around that. In the medium term, we'd like to extend our services at the Cambrian Centre and at Ham, although there are operational challenges to overcome there. And eventually, the long-term goal would be to extend our reach into other London boroughs. Thank you. And I think now time for questions, hopefully.
Got a roving mic, so perhaps Sue, if you'd like to come up.
Yes.
Whether you'd be more comfortable sitting on a chair.
Could do, yeah, I can have that.
Good evening, that was inspirational. Can I ask just the logistics of, I think I saw on your slide 420 tons of food, or 420 tons of provisions, and yet you don't have a central place to store this and keep it chilled. It must be quite challenging keeping non-ambient food fresh. And how on earth do you find enough folk with enough freezers to keep it all ready for you? And good luck with finding somewhere that's more permanent.
Can you hear me if I speak about
I'll bring you the microphone.
So absolutely, that is a challenge, and that's why we want to get a central storage facility. But we are lucky that at most of our venues, including the Cambrian Centre, we've got storage space there with a fridge and a freezer, and shelves for, say, tinned skin foods, for example. So of course all the fresh food, and it is right at the end of its life anyway, so it has to be used that day or given to someone who can use it instantly. But at the moment, yeah, we're managing with our Centre, Ham, and Linton Hall, all the freezers. So with those 3 freezers, we're kind of managing, and fridges. But yeah, absolutely, a central storage facility would improve things greatly.
It's a terrifically impressive scheme. Is it correct that you actually spend no money on food at all?
Not quite. Sometimes we do have to pay for things like sugar, oil, occasionally milk. We pay for, we offer takeaways. People, if they don't want to eat in, they can have a takeaway. So we pay for like plastic tubs, incidental things like that. And the turkeys at Christmas, we had to buy those. But we got a donation to pay for them, but we did have to buy them. But wherever possible, we try to really rely on just the surplus food.
Okay, so I'm very interested, as you know, really, in the number of single-person households in this area. Do you do anything in particular to try to attract people from those kind of households and help them to connect with other people locally?
But we don't know. We don't know where they are, so but we do. So we can't target them specifically, but we do quite a lot of leafleting in the area around, certainly around the centre. And what we do is try and make sure that what we're offering, as you see, are structured activities, so that people are able to really engage with us in a way which makes it easy to do so without necessarily having to enter into a sort of slightly more complex social environment. So we hope we offer what we offer will attract people, and then once they're there, everybody really essentially all of the feedback is that it's been a great welcome, and people have felt very warmly welcomed and put at ease very quickly.
The question, you say that the car parking is going to be redeveloped for an outside seating area. A lot of people need to be brought by car, or need to come by car. What is going to be the car parking facility? That's a really good question. We've focused quite a lot on that. So there are a number of car parking places that are being built within the area of the new almshouses. So what we've done is we've got some disabled parking established through council on Cambrian Road immediately outside the Cambrian Centre in order to enable people who need disabled parking to make sure there's parking available for them. There's a space on Grove Road which belongs to the Richmond Foundation, which has 4 spaces in it, which I think we're going to get exclusive use of. And we're also expecting to get exclusive use of of some of the spaces that are being developed with the almshouses. One of the issues we've got at the moment is that because there are builders there, they come with all sorts of vehicles and take quite early in the morning and take up quite a lot of space. So at the moment, I have to say it is more challenging. But the work should be finished by April, and I'm hoping that will provide sufficient parking and perhaps a bit more spare capacity on the street in the open, because there are a number of streets around there where there is actually just open parking. Queen's Road itself is an example.
But there are disabled people and people who don't have disabled badges that need to be accommodated as well.
Yes, and we do come armed with a number of traffic cones. So you can, in a sense, if we know there's an issue for somebody and they might not be able to use if it's a big large space, they might not be able to use it. I mean, there is also an informal disabled space where actually it just says for disabled use, and often that's enough to keep other people out of it, but that doesn't require a new badge, and we've got one of those as well. So there's a range of things we can do. We're very aware. I mean, there are a lot of people coming into the centre with mobility issues. We're very aware of that issue, and we work quite proactively and positively with people to make sure that they can access the gym and other things.
Thank you.
I don't know whether there are any questions from people who are online. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you both for a great presentation. I'm a trustee of the Richmond Society, and I'd like to know from both of you, what can we do, aside from coming and eating food, what can we do to help you?
Give you money.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it is. I mean, this evening has been useful. Keeping up the profile of both the centre and the Junk Food Project, what the work the Junk Food Project does, is really very much a part of what we would like help with, if there's help. But yes, certainly visit anything that works for you, either at the centre or at the Junk Food Project. And yes, donations are always welcome.
And if you would like to volunteer, I've left leaflets which actually have all of our venues and the dates and times on them. At the bottom of that, the website, and if you go on there, you'll find there's either a kind of email address, or I think there's actually a message box on there so that you can contact us. And so we are always recruiting volunteers. Obviously, welcome to speak to me afterwards if you are interested, because I'm the volunteer coordinator as well as the manager. And then, yeah, come along, spread the word. We have capacity, I believe we can feed more people. So, yeah, increase our numbers, become volunteers, donate. I think that's it.
Well, unfortunately, on the screen, I can't see if there are any people online who've got questions, but if there is anybody, unmute yourself and ask your question. And I think I would say speak now, but ever hold your peace. On which note, I take it there aren't any further questions. So, first of all, may I say a huge thank you to both our speakers. What you do is fantastic, and probably many people have heard of the Cambrian Centre, or Community Centre, I should say, but probably fewer people about the real junk food project. Yes, I'm sure I did get that right, which is fantastic. I mean, and it started in Richmond, so I think we should feel incredibly proud as a borough that we've had such an innovative and imaginative way of using food that would otherwise go to waste. Perhaps on a slightly more depressing note, I think that for your services are going to be more rather than less in demand in the future. And so I think it behoves us as sort of amenity societies to do what we can to promote what you and other organisations do within the borough. It does show that when communities pull together, there are people who will volunteer and help other people. And in perhaps rather depressing times, that's something I think we should feel proud of and foster and also play our part. So somewhere, and it's possibly a treasure hunt, there are two. Right, so there's a little thank you for each of you. Thank you very much. It's something you've really enjoyed with the class, and also there's our book on trees, a tree walk in Richmond. So that might amuse you and some of your customers. So before I bring proceedings to a complete close, well, first of all, I should say that thanks to Lord Hendy and his assistant, conductor, wearing her other hat. And you'll be pleased to know that Lord Hendy's bus is rolling again for us in July. So and it's on the website, but you put that in the diary because it's huge fun and well worth doing. And we're very grateful that Peter is prepared to spend the time doing it for us. Now, there was reference to almshouses, and that's very timely because our next meeting, which is on Thursday, the 27th of March, here at 7:30, and it's a talk by Juliet Ames Lewis, who is the current chair of, chief executive of Richmond Charities. And probably most of you know, because you walk past the Hickey Almshouses or the Bishop Duffers, etc., well, all of them are within the Richmond Charities. And Juliet is going to talk to us about the almshouse movement and the history of almshouses in Richmond. So on that note, thank you very much for coming. I hope you've enjoyed the evening. There are alcoholic and non-alcoholic refreshments around the corner. And thank you very much. Oh, and I should thank Lizzie and her team of volunteers, because without them, you certainly wouldn't get so many things at all.